Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about oral presentations today and just recognize the differences between oral presentations and the written documents that we've talked about previously. With oral presentations, you're kind of keeping things simple, just getting the big ideas across. Okay, you've got to be very organized with these presentations. You want to be very concise and precise. Say only what needs to be said. A lot of those big details can go into a written document that could follow up with it. Okay. As with any sort of presentation or any sort of communication, you want to know who you're speaking to. Presentations inherently are visual, so you're going to want to use a lot of visuals as opposed to a lot of text. So, unlike what I'm doing on this presentation, you're going to want to use more visuals when presenting technical ideas, equations, charts, things of that nature, graphs, tables. Okay. And just when you speak, you want to speak very deliberately. And it's a challenge for everybody. Public speaking is notoriously nerve wracking for people, but if you take your time and understand your subject matter, you should be okay. So, again, know your audience, understand what the purpose of the presentation. Are you informing them of something, demonstrating something, trying to persuade them for some reason? Are you selling something? Is it other engineers? Is it your supervisor? Is it a client? That sort of thing. So how many is it, right? Are you going to be sitting around a conference table? Or are you going to be up in front of like a, you know, 1,000 seat lecture hall, so just think about that, and your presentation changes greatly depending on how many people. So what is their background, right? Do they understand all the technical things you might be talking about, or are they just concerned about a bottom line? Are they business folks that are just trying to do that, or are they the client and they just kind of want to get the big picture sort of idea, right? um, so what's their background? What's their knowledge of the topic? The other key thing to remember is how much time do you have? You don't want to waste people's time. So, make sure you respect their time, know how much time you have, and don't go over that time as you put this together. Again, presentation should be organized because you've got to hit those main points. Okay. Um, Classic idea of technical communication is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So a lot of repetition, a lot of foreshadowing, putting an outline up there is a great idea to let them know exactly what they're going to see. And with a summary, so you can kind of hit those main points again. So you kind of tell them a few different times as you go through what you're actually talking about. Okay. Again, do as I say, not as I do. Use lots of graphics. Okay. Uh, as many as possible. It's a lot easier to absorb pictures often than a lot of text. Okay, so keep that in mind as you're putting together the organization of your presentation and your slides. Okay, again, the general outline for presentation, you'll have a title slide with the topic, your name, your affiliation, and contact information, things of that nature. You then actually want to do an overview slide where you lay out exactly what it is that you're talking about in the presentation so they know what to expect, when to expect it, and that sort of thing. Then you get into the meat of the presentation, right? The big discussion, you'll have slides about whatever it is that you're talking about. Most of your presentation will be in here. But then again, you always want to come back and then reiterate those main points with either a conclusion or a summary or recommendations, that sort of thing, at the end of the presentation. So, in creating the presentation, again, you want simple slides, lots of visuals, graphs, tables, diagrams, those kind of thing. Keep it one idea per slide. Don't just cram as much stuff as you can possibly get onto a slide. You want to, when in doubt, use more slides, okay, and talk um, less on each slide, okay? So just keep it to one idea per slide. I always think about, for students, about one slide per 30 seconds. If you know yourself and I was taught when going through graduate school about one slide per minute. I never was able to do that. It was more like 90 seconds per slide. So you know yourself. Good rule of thumb is if you've got, a 5-minute presentation, you should probably have 10 slides to go through that when doing, your first few presentations with this. Make sure that it's legible, use lots of large font sizes, use short phrases. Complete sentences just get lost. If you see a whole paragraph up there, no one's going to read it anywhere. Anyway, high contrast colors. Okay. Again, don't put everything you're going to say on the slide. Don't just read from the slide. Okay. I always think of the slides as my notes, and then I'm going to fill in the details. Okay. You're going to be talking to them as well. Okay. So you don't want to put everything on the slide and then just read it. Okay, so leave some things off of there. You fill that in with the discussion that you're having orally. Okay. Again, with the visuals, you want them simple. You want them readable. So again, if you're creating a graph, make sure you use the font size that can be seen by whatever room you're putting them into, right? Make them understandable, somewhat standalone. I mean, you're going to be talking about them, so you don't have to fill in every little detail, but you should be able to look at them and be able to figure out what you're looking at, right? And again, as I said before, when in doubt, split it into 2 slides. Okay, um, people would rather see a change in the slide and talk a little bit less per slide if necessary. So more slides generally the better. Okay, less time on each slide. Okay. And I always tell people just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it, okay? Just because you can have lasers coming in and sound effects and swirling things doesn't mean you should do it, okay? These are technical presentations. You're just trying to get the information to the audience as efficiently as possible, okay? Speaking is just something, there's 2 things that are going to help. It's going to be practicing, okay? And probably the most important thing is knowing your subject. If you are the expert in the room, there's nothing to be worried about. If you know what you're talking about, it's much less nerve-wracking. Okay, but again, kind of be deliberate with the speaking. Okay, a lot of this stuff is easier said than done. I understand. So again, I hate when people read off of slides. So don't memorize things, right? Just have a nice general talking. Okay, tough one is avoiding fillers. You probably could count through this presentation and count the dozens of times I used some sort of or whatever uh, in this presentation. So, but you try to do it as little as possible. Okay, making eye contact can be helpful. Getting that connection with the audience, that sort of a thing. Okay. Build in some pauses, right? Because this is the only time people are going to hear this. So you don't want to just speed read through it, right? And just as fast as you can, right? Even though you do want to respect the time limit, you want to be deliberate, pause, make sure everyone's following along, that you haven't lost anybody, and that sort of a thing. Really, the best way to do this is to practice what you're doing. And if you know the information, if you've done the work to build the presentation, and know it inside and out, that's going to be the best way to kind of get over those nerves and do a better job with the speaking aspect.